here's how Philadelphia can really win this game against the Giants in Week 7 to get that record to 4-2, which would really serve them well as the season progresses here to be a couple of games over 500 with some easy games coming up on the Eagles' schedule. Let's begin with the Giants' Daniel Jones problem. Their quarterback has really held the Giants back as a football team because they have one of the top defenses in the NFL. Their special teams unit is good. I like Brian Daboll, frankly, as a head coach, but he has not been helped by his quarterback in Daniel Jones, who this year has been a really good runner, not a good thrower. And that contract wasn't worth it. I thought that was the case at the time when the Giants gave him $40 million. So he's holding this team back schematically with his overall play, but with this contract as well. He has 8 passing touchdowns in his last 13 games. That's not what you pay a quarterback $40 million average annual value for. He's also had a lot of primetime struggles in big-time games. DJ, after that loss against the Bengals on Sunday, is 1-14 in primetime and hasn't thrown a touchdown in his last 7 primetime matchups. I know that this game is being played at 1 p.m. Eastern on the East Coast, but still, in big moments, Daniel Jones has faltered. And in all games this year, he hasn't been good. He's managed the game. He's been able to make some plays happen with his legs, but not with his arm. A completion rate of just 62.1%. That is well below, league average. And he's thrown only 6 touchdowns to 4 picks. And his yards per attempt, 6.1. This is also pretty crazy. The Giants this year have 8 offensive touchdowns. Their defense has only given up 8 touchdowns. So the offense hasn't been able to bail out the defense or even support the defense, and they are just not playing complementary football. And then toward the end of games, the defense naturally starts to break down and get a little bit tired because the offense has a lot of 3-and-outs. They can't really sustain drives. They can't matriculate downfield. And these Giants' defensive numbers are excellent. Touchdowns per game allowed, they rank 6th among 32 teams. They are number 1 in the NFL in sacks. Their sack rate is number 1 in the NFL. And their tackles for loss, 2nd. So they cause a lot of problems. They cause a lot of destruction. And they cause a lot of big plays for their defense and negative plays for the opposing offense. Offensive points per game in 2024. Again, not complimentary football here for the New York Giants. The Giants are 29th in offensive points per game at just 15.5. Patriots at 13.8. They're 30th. The Browns, 12.3. That's 31st. And the Miami Dolphins, 12.4, 32nd. And all of these teams have had quarterback problems. To out Skylar Thompson in, Snoop Huntley, Deshaun Watson has been terrible, and then the Patriots just made the switch from Jacoby Brissett to the rookie in Drake May. And Vic Fangio in this game, I want to see him do it again. Against the Saints, he had a great defensive game plan. Against the Browns, a great defensive game plan. And the Eagles here so far in 5 games haven't given up an offensive touchdown in 2 games this year. I know it was against a Saints team that has been crashing down to normalcy and reality. And against a Browns team that is a bad and horrendous offensive unit. But it's the National Football League, man. So when you don't give up an offensive touchdown in this offensive era, you have to give credit where credit is due and props where props are due. And Vic Fangio deserves that because he's made some good adjustments. And I like what the Eagles did as far as their defensive identity, the scheme, the play calling, the approach, and the attitude that they exhibited against the Browns. We saw more press man from the corners, and sometimes Vic Fangio will give the corners the option. We saw more blitz calls, and what did it lead to? The quarterback in Deshaun Watson wasn't able to complete easy throws to his wide receivers, and he was under duress all throughout the day. The Eagles against Cleveland, 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, no touchdowns given up, and we saw some positive signs from the Eagles' sack production. Bryce Huff finally was in a 4-point stance. He had all 10 of his sacks last year for the Jets in a 4-point stance. His get-off is noticeably faster when he's in a 4-point stance. He is not a stand-up edge rusher like Hassan Reddick. He had a half sack. You got some pressure from the interior, from the likes of Milton Williams, Thomas Booker, and Jalen Carter, Williams Booker combined for a full sack, a half sack each. Jalen Carter had a sack. Nolan Smith, he plays with this motor that I find to be very intriguing, and he's a raw player who I think is starting to turn the corner a little bit. Josh Sweat, a sack, and Cooper DeJean helped force 2 sacks and registered a half sack. I love the corner blitz calls from Fangio for the rookie in DeJean, as DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell look to be the real deal, the top 2 picks for the Eagles in the 2024 NFL Draft. Some big injury news for the Giants that we have to keep tabs on. Rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors out of LSU is a dog. He's already one of the top wide receivers in the game. No exaggeration there. He has missed the last 2 games, though, against Seattle, against the Bengals, due to a concussion that he suffered against the Dallas Cowboys back a few weeks ago. We'll see if he's able to play in this game. He has been excellent with bad quarterback play. It's very explosive, diverse route tree, 35 catches, 386 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a long of 39. I hope that he plays because I want to see Quinyon Mitchell matched up against him. Darius Slay, by the way, believed to be day-to-day with that knee injury that he suffered against Cleveland. With that, let's shift gears and pivot to my keys to the game. Saquon Barkley. Giants fans have talked shit all offseason. The Giants didn't want you. They gave you the franchise tag 2 years ago, didn't give you an extension. They didn't pay you this offseason. Now is your opportunity to show them that you're on the right side of this rivalry with Philadelphia, and they should have paid you. He's been one of the top weapons, not just running backs, in the National Football League, and I think that Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni are going to go out of their way to give him the rock so that he can show up, show out, and ball out against his former team. Some other things that I liked from what the Eagles did against the Browns, we saw some more creativity in the run game. A lot of times, this Eagles running attack has been predictable. Jalen Hurts in the shotgun, handoff to Saquon, runs in between the tackles. Philadelphia is still doing that a little bit too much, but how about the option fake toss from Jalen Hurts when he elected to kind of keep it like he's playing Navy football for that big first down pickup against the Browns late in the game? How about Saquon Barkley being able to run to the outside? How about that play to Kenneth Gainwell in which Hurts allowed the defense to come up, handed it off to Gainwell for a big running play? I like the creativity in the run game, and hopefully that continues against a really solid defense with New York. Key to the game number 2, Jalen Hurts. To start the year, hadn't been good. To start the game against the Browns, he was not good and looked like the Hurts that we had seen in the previous 4 games. But then, after that slow start against the Browns, Jalen Hurts showed some signs of life, showed a lot of progress, and hopefully this is the Hurts that we will see for the remainder of the year. After his first 2 drives in which he started 0 for 5, he finished the game 16 of 20, completed 80% of his passes, 297 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 152.1. The biggest thing I wanted to see from Hurts: do not turn the football over and don't put the ball in harm's way. Hurts had no giveaways against Cleveland. Finally, he had 27 turnovers in 22 games going into Sunday. Since the start of the 2023 season, he leads all players in the NFL with turnovers. It's just not a sustainable and winning way to play football. And when Jalen Hurts is able to have a clean slate in the turnover department, Philadelphia wins. The Eagles are 11-1 when Hurts does not turn the rock over. You're going up against a viable defense, one of the top defenses in the National Football League. They lead the league in sacks, and they can pressure the quarterback. They're really good as far as TFLs, so Jalen Hurts will once again be tested just like he was last week against a Jim Schwartz-led defense. So do the Eagles need to start faster? No doubt about it, but Hurts played well against one of the top defensive play callers in the NFL in Jim Schwartz, and I want to see that continue. Hurts will also be pressed and tested against the blitz. Jim Schwartz did that a lot on Sunday, and Hurts has fared well against pressure looks this year. He's 33 of 51. He's completed 64.5% of his passes, 402 yards, 4 tutties, 1 pick. He threw both of his touchdowns, by the way, to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith against the blitz against the Browns. He has a passer rating of 106.8, yards per attempt at 7.9, and an EPA of plus 13.5. Key to the game number 3, make offensive adjustments. This is something that Nick Sirianni and his offensive staff have really struggled with the last 2 years, with Kellen Moore this year, with Brian Johnson last year. Some of the offensive changes that I want to see: start fast. Eagles are the only team in the NFL that hasn't scored any points in the first quarter this year. Unacceptable. Let's see more pre-snap motion. It looks like Kellen Moore is still running Nick Sirianni's offense, which is vanilla, predictable, mundane. Get back to that week 1 pre-snap motion. It confuses the defense, and it serves as an indicator for Hurts for what the defense is doing. Are they playing zone? Are they playing man? And it helps your playmakers break free. Route tree variety. A.J. Brown, go ball. That's like the staple of this offense right now. It's easy for defenses to take that away. You put a safety over the top, they take it away. Have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith run all over the field. Eagles haven't really done that this year. Target the middle area of the field. What happened when the Eagles did target the middle area of the field with the crosser? Devontae Smith, able to run 45 yards untouched for that touchdown last week. And even if the ground game doesn't work for a drive or two, stay committed to it, because as we've seen, even when Saquon Barkley is bottled up, he's still capable of popping off a long run to change the tide of a football game. Did it against New Orleans, did it against Green Bay. He's done it multiple times this year. Key to the game number 4, keep Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy, and Brian Burns in check. One of the top defensive players in the NFL is Dexter Lawrence. Certainly one of the top defensive tackles. And Brian Burns, against the run, against the pass, one of the top edge rushers in the game. They are big reasons why this is one of the top defenses in the NFL for New York. And Lawrence is a load. 6'4", 340, 7 sacks this year as a nose tackle. You rarely see that. It's a different position than defensive tackle. And for Burns, he got going last week against Cincinnati. He popped on tape, and that's the player that the Giants are paying for. He has 3 sacks this year. Both Lawrence and Burns can take over the game. And then lastly, key to the game number 5, Daniel Jones is terrible. Daniel Jones is one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the National Football League, especially when you factor in the price tag. Yards per attempt, terrible. Touchdown to interception ratio, 6-4. Completion rate, 62%. This Eagles defense, they dominated the Saints. They dominated the Browns. Outside of that, they've been a mediocre to bad unit this year, but we've seen what they're capable of being. And they should be able to continue that dominance and have another dominant showing against a lackluster Giants offense led by Daniel Jones. Predict the score: Philadelphia Eagles traveling to East Rutherford, New Jersey to take on the Giants. Look, it's so hard to predict every Eagles game this year because you never know what team you're going to get. And for the last calendar year, this Eagles team has been very frustrating to watch. It makes you want to rip your hair out and gouge your eyes. I think the Eagles win this game by 8. They are better. I think they wear that Giants team down throughout the course of the game. I think Nick Sirianni is very motivated to get this team playing up to their caliber, especially after all of the slack that he's taken after talking some smack with some Eagles fans and having to apologize for it. The Eagles go on the road. They play a pretty clean game. We saw some strides offensively against Cleveland. We'll continue to see it against one of the NFL's top defenses on Sunday.